Good evening and welcome to A Real Point of View. This is our second episode talking about Last Stands. We had a ride of just a wonderful myriad of films that we talked about regarding Last Stands. And the last film we were talking about was A Few Good Men, which is one that Steve brought up, that just had a myriad of last stands and so much information. And it really culminates in this one major scene toward the latter part of the movie. So let's continue our conversation on last stands.
You can't handle the truth.
So Greg, you got another one?
I was waiting for Karen to continue with the John Wayne, but
that was Jack Nicholson. What are you talking about?
Oh, sorry.
You can't handle the truth.
Sounded a little bit like John Wayne to me, but anyway,
no, it sounded more like Peter Lorre.
Whatever. Haters.
Where's Gandalf when you really need him? That's the question.
Well, probably undergoing a last stand, but hey.
We got to talk about that trip on that boat. Where were they going? That's what I want to know. Okay. That's just me. All right. So, Steve, any other wonderful movies that piqued your interest with regard to this great thing that you've facilitated
for us? That piqued my interest with this. And I figured you were going to talk, but that's fine. We'll go with this. There's a movie that I really like, and I really enjoyed the last scene of the movie. But the movie itself is not amazing. It's not, over the top. It's not one of the best movies. It was never going to be an Oscar-worthy film, in my opinion. Now, some of y'all may feel differently. But I felt the ending for the last stand moment was pretty good.
Okay.
For what we're talking about. And the movie is Quigley Down Under.
I like that movie.
Okay. I know a lot of people like the movie, but nobody really, thinks about it when it comes to things like this. But you have Alan Rickman's character, mm-hmm. who wants to have this gunfight. He talks about it the whole movie. And from when you meet his character, he's fascinated with the Wild West. Of course, this Quigley Down Under is taking place in Australia. It's not really a Wild West out there. Although it does mimic some similarities with there being so much deserted area, with it being a very treacherous, just all-around place to be. So it kind of does a great job mimicking where our main character is from. Mm-hmm. And so they go into the scene where Rickman's character goes to cut him loose. And he says, I've got a great idea. Get his rifle out of the way. Get his rifle out of here. So go get my second revolver and stick it in his belt. And we're going to have ourselves a standoff. We're going to have ourselves a duel. A true Western. I get to really feel what a true Western is. And our Tom Selleck, our character, has talked about how he really doesn't like revolvers. He's not a fan. He's a rifleman. He's a rifle guy. He loves his shots from distance, and he's kind of a hunter in the moment too. So they get that, and you have the moment, and he's like, don't worry, my two associates are going to make sure this is fair and square right down the middle. No cheating, no shenanigans. Of course, you're the villain. You're just going to kill, like your buddies are going to kill him if something goes wrong. It's whatever. So they have their moment. You get this intense stare down. And then all of a sudden, Rickman reaches for his gun. And literally in the moment where he's about to pull out his gun, Selleck shoots all three of them. Build up. Our hero's going to die. This is going to be the end of it. And then all of a sudden, when are you a gunfighter? When has that happened in this movie? At what point did you think that he was going to be able to just like that? And he makes the statement to the guy. He goes, look, this ain't Dodge City, and you ain't no Bill Hickok. And the guy's like, on his dying breath, I thought you couldn't I thought you couldn't use a revolver. No, I just said I don't have much use for one. And it's just that moment of like the hero overcoming the villain and still having a one-liner to go right in there just to drive the point home. You're dead. I'm not. Sorry. Just as it was a really good last stand.
And Karen's going to like this coming from me. A very Humphrey Bogart moment.
Yeah.
See,
It really was.
I didn't like the film. I thought that I thought that certain elements of good storytelling were left out, and without getting into super details, except for to say that it would have been interesting if it would be more interesting if we saw his relationship with the pistol at least at one time, if not two times earlier in the film, that made it that opened up that possibility. Not that he would or wouldn't, but it's important in visual narrative, and this is where I think the film fails. It's important in visual narrative that you set up the dialogue, you set up the language that you're going to speak, you're going to tell the story visually, and we really didn't see visually that relationship with him holding a pistol in a way that is meaningful. Oh yeah, there's a couple little things in there, but it doesn't really do the trick.
Now,
you need about yeah.
I have a thought about that. It would have been interesting, not saying because I did like the movie. It would be interesting, going along with the realms of what you're referring to, Larry, to say, even if it was in the beginning of the film, you don't see Tom Selleck at all. Or let me rephrase that. You don't see his body. You just see his hand. And you see a desk, and he has the gun in the holster. He wraps it up, and he puts it in the desk. That would have sold volumes.
It didn't for me.
Because then we would know that maybe he was a gunslinger and just decided not to be one anymore.
See, and to me, it needed like about 30 seconds more film with that relationship between he and the handgun. You know, he and the pistol. I'm not saying it'd be easy to do that because of the nature of the film, but it would have helped that film a whole lot.
Yeah, I think my thought is they were going on the pompous attitude of this guy and the element of total surprise, not just to him, but everybody watching it. Because, again, there was never any reference to it. And it's that assumption that because I think this is who you are, that's how you're going to act. And he lets them know at the end of the movie, oh, by the way, that's not who I am. I just prefer the rifle. It doesn't mean that's the only thing I know how to do. So it was just a wrong assumption, obviously, and it was a deadly one.
It's possible that more attention to the gun might have given that element away because there's a surprise. I mean, I think from what you're saying, it sounds like you're not supposed to think of Tom Selleck as a revolver guy because he has a distaste for guns or is afraid of them or whatever. For whatever the reasons, he doesn't use guns, and which implies if you don't use guns because you don't know how to use a gun. Mm-hmm. And so it's a surprise when he's very adept at using a gun, but him spending more time, I could have given that plot point away.
That's why it wasn't necessarily an easy. What I'm asking from this movie for the way that film was done would not necessarily have been an easy thing to do.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna agree with you on that too, Larry. I think it would have made it a very different movie. And that might not be where they were going, obviously. Yeah. But hey, I liked it too. You know, I'm more of a Tom Selleck Western fan than some of the other things, Tom Selleck, because I actually think he did well in the Westerns that I saw him in, which was quite a few, the Sacketts, for example. Yeah, very good stuff, guys.
You know, it's interesting. you bring up westerns, and you've got the good, the bad, and the ugly, which again, that whole story is leading up to that last stand. And they basically they shove it in your face that these three are going to meet all at once, and they're going to have a final, a final crack at everything. And it's done really well, and plus it's got an amazing score to help you through it.
Larry, Steve and I are actually talking about some other films that were westerns that had the Last Stand ideology to it. Do you remember what we were talking about, Steve?
I know we mentioned Tombstone, which is one of the big ones that has a last stand in the center of the movie.
Right. How could you not mention Tombstone?
Then turns around and has a last stand a little bit later in the movie.
Right.
Yeah.
Next to the riverbed. And then you turn around and you have a last stand, but they more so call it a last ride. It's really a last stand for every cowboy in the movie because there's none left at the end of it. Right. But then another one that we were making mention of, and I really enjoy the new generation one. I, have a love for the old generation one. And Larry has an extreme love for the old generation version of it. But I love the Magnificent Seven.
Sure.
Big, major, every single iteration of that movie is leading to a last stand.
Right. Including the Seven Samurai, which was its father.
That's where Larry
That's where we were going to Larry for.
Right.
And what's interesting too is where the movie's part is with the Seven Samurai. It's really all of those Ronin, their last stand. They know it. They know that by what they're doing makes them outlaws, and by what they're, by going against what, what the culture is wanting them to do. And so they know that even if they win, they've lost. But their honor is more important than going forward. So, and that's where it kind of differs. Even though I think that the one with Yul Brynner in the Magnificent Seven, they almost make it there. They almost do. There's only a couple of guys there who they're like, this is my last chance to redeem myself. And the only one who really redeems himself out of all of those people is Charles Bronson by living, and his character by living, and Robert Vaughn by dying.
Yep. I was going to say Robert Vaughn did by dying, but definitely showing that he wasn't just the suave, debonair, city slicker dude. He was actually had some morals toward the latter part.
Which, talking about everybody understanding that they're going to die, one of the things that I like about the new one is one of the scenes that happens right before the fight's about to start. Well, not right before, it's the night before. The scene's about to start is when the coward runs off, where he leaves. He can't do this. He knows what he is, and he can't do it. He can't bring himself to go through the fight. He's scared. And he's still haunted by the things that he's done, and there's ghosts in his mind that are chasing him. But the religious one of the bunch, I forget the actor that plays him, but Denzel Washington is walking up to him and says, if now's the time, if anybody else is going to leave, just, go ahead. And then you got, Chris Pratt, who's going to be there, the Mexican guy who's going to be there, and and Billy's, of course, already started drinking in the bar because he knows what's up. And you've got the religious guy that's like, I believe I'm gonna keep this going. I knew tomorrow was going to be a dark day. And
Mm-hmm.
it seems like it's going to be a little bit darker. So in a scene where, you know, in a lot of movies where they do things like this, they try to establish the heroes are the heroes and, you know, they're going to make it through. There's that thought process of, well, they're going to live because they're the heroes. They're supposed to live. You have a moment where they let you know that they're also coming to terms with this. They're probably not going to be here tomorrow. And that's one of the things, just like in Seven Samurai, where you get the understanding of, you know, when this is done, we're done.
Right, right. And that is a major trope, again, in both of those films. All three of those films is that when this is done, win or lose, we're done. You know, but the question is, on what side of the coin are you finished with? You know,
on what terms will you finish? Because we're all going to be finished. That's the thing.
And mostly,
how do you finish things out?
Yeah, and mostly it's terms with yourself.
Right.
Each one of them has that personal journey. In all three films, each character has their own personal journey that gets them to the end of the movie.
Right.
And again, all three are worth watching.
Yeah, they are.
Pick one, pick all three. It really doesn't matter because all three of them give the story credence and they're worth watching. So, you know, about cowboy films, though, I mean, there's so many. You know, there's The Shootist. You know, John Wayne's last film. But then again, that is, you know, he did a fine job in there. But a better one about a stand is The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. You know, and again, you have John Wayne's character, Jimmy Stewart's character, Henry Fonda. Oh my God, what you know, what more could he ask for? But Henry Fonda, he's not really making a stand. He's just trying to do what he wants to do. Whereas the real stand is Jimmy Stewart's character and what he needs to do. And that's very similar to Gary Cooper in High Noon. You know, so there's this certain trope of that stand that perpetuates a lot, not all, but many of these Westerns. And I think that you touched upon it really good when you brought up the Magnificent Seven. This is a continuing theme of that, continuing theme and trope in a lot of the Westerns. And Westerns really lend themselves very well to this. You know, that whole idea of standing up for what is right. The film that turns it all on its head and sideways and inside out is Unforgiven. There's nobody making a stand in this film. No one. Everyone is a bad person. Everyone. You know,
well, speaking of bad, another modern Western that I think goes along with the realms of this very topic is Open Range. Here we have.
Did you say Open Range?
I did. Here we have very, very interesting characters who come together, and their past is not privy to us up front. We don't really know where they come from right away. We just know that they're trying to do something that's honest in the day. And because of a land baron, it changes all that around. And now we start to realize and find out who these individuals really are. And we find out that Kevin Costner's character at one point wasn't just a bad guy, he was evil.
Yeah.
And he did not want to let that lion out of its cage. But at the same time, he tried to let people know that once this lion is out, I don't have a whole bunch of control. So either we're going to do this or we're not. But if we're not going to do this, then we better go now. But if we're going to do this, I am so all in that it might be so all in that you can't stop me. he had a lot of conflict. There was a lot of last stands in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Over and over and over again for different characters in different times. And that made that movie that much more interesting.
Greg, is this one of the movies that you wanted to bring up? Before time gets too far, I just want you to have a chance to bring up the movies that you wanted to suggest.
Oh, no, actually it wasn't. It was just going along the themes of what we were discussing more directly. Okay, so the films that I had. Okay, I had it's not really a Western, but it is a Civil War film. And Civil War, post-Civil War film. And then I had a featurette that I wanted to mention along with another movie. So the film that I'm referring to that was Civil War and then post-Civil War was a movie back in the glory days of Hollywood. They died with their boots on with Errol Flynn. This depicts the almost like a factual information about George Armstrong Custer, who was a true person in our nation's history, especially our nation's military history, who actually did go to West Point. But the interesting thing here for me is that there are a lot of last stands in this film. And some of the last stands were perpetrated by less than responsibility, very much irresponsibility early on in the Civil War days. And there was multiple last stands, and Custer just went to him like a moth to a flame. And then, of course, the final last stand, which was the true last stand for George Armstrong Custer, which shows devotion, which shows what's the word I want to say? Shows that dedication along with that devotion from his men and his love of country. All things that were very conflicting throughout his whole military career. Yet, despite all of those last stands, it did nothing to deter him from his true nature, and that was to lead and to be dedicated to his country. Now, another film that I wanted to discuss, the film and the featurette both deal with martial arts in a way. Basically ancient China and ancient Japan. So the featurette is 100 Eyes, which is a featurette. It's about 21 minutes long. And it is an excerpt from, or a featurette that's actually used for a mini-series called Marco Polo. But the featurette itself was a very interesting thing where there's multiple last stands in this featurette. So we have a Chinese priest, not a monk, but a Chinese priest whose sworn duty is to protect everything that deals with their temple, the scrolls of knowledge, artifacts, all those things. And they were sworn to the death to defend these things. But he makes a quote unquote last stand in fighting the Mongols and finds out that he is single-handedly taking care of this Mongol platoon. And then when they finally capture him, they take him back to meet Genghis Khan. So he's defeated all these people. Genghis Khan doesn't understand it. I need you to teach my men what it is that you're doing, that you killed like 21 people. And these are guys who have been fierce fighters all these years. And so the next last stand starts to occur between Genghis Khan and this priest. And the priest is letting him know that in this last stand, no matter what you say, no matter what you do, no matter what you do to me, no matter who you are, I don't fear you, because there's nothing you do here on this plane that I have to be afraid of. So he makes a stand. And so Genghis Khan's like, okay, yeah, you think all that. Well, let's try some stuff. And he does all this stuff to try to change all that. And all Genghis Khan does is find out that this man is much more than he thought, much more formidable than any other person and or country he's had to go up against. This one man. So he does all these things. This man comes back. He has him before him again. And he gives a little parable and talks about all these different things. And the man is unflinching. His second last stand, he conquers. So then Genghis Khan does something that's out of the ordinary. He blinds this man. And he wants to see, okay, now as all these things that you could see and feel are taken away from you, where do you stand? Again, he comes back after defeating all these different things around him. Now he can't see. And yet he's still the same man he was, except something else happened in this other last stand. He became more than what he was before. And now his expression wasn't just angst, it was gratitude. He thanked him for letting him truly see. And now he sees better than he saw before when he actually had his physical sight. And he thanks Genghis Khan for that.
And Genghis is like, that's exactly what I was going for, not.
He was kind of going for that a little bit, but not really. But was actually pleased. But it was just a multitude of different last stands in that movie. And you think, as a person who's viewing it, that this is it. This is over. He's gotten away. And they bring him back. He got away, bring him back. Sound almost like The Sopranos. I thought it was on me. Pull me back in. Only this time when they put him back, he was like, hey, this is kind of cool. I can dig this. And so nothing about this man was unflinching. They did not destroy his personality. They just added to it. And he was grateful for the increase. Wonderful film. And it's only 21 minutes long.
Wow.
Another
Isn't that a
film,
beautiful thing?
Yeah.
it was great. And another movie like this, and it's bringing back Tom Cruise again, was The Last Samurai. In this movie, there are so many last stands in this movie. It's amazing. And the irony is, in the beginning, they talk about last stands in the Civil War. And then they go from that to Japan and some more last stands of the warlords. And now they trying to eliminate samurais in the country altogether. And the last stand that they're putting out there to keep the samurai life and the way of life still vibrant in Japan. And all the things that they're doing to try to get rid of this very cultured life. And then Tom Cruise's last stand is now that the military might that he had, he's captured by the samurai who are underestimated. And so now he's trying to figure out how he's going to survive in this situation. And so he faces a minor last stand. And then later on in the film, after being acclimated to this new way of life and truly understanding more about it and changing his allegiance to being more with the samurai and understanding the politics and understanding the way of life and understanding how this probably is a better way to live and a better way to be in this culture and not let Westernism come and destroy this beautiful land. He is being sought out by assassins. So now Tom Cruise is his last stand. Is he going to survive this attack by multiple people without having any weapons of his own? As a cavalryman and as a Union soldier, he had a saber, he had guns. He has none of these things. So now he's facing a last stand and what he does to survive. And then later on in the film, jumping to the next part of the film, he and the warlord have become friends and good Confederates, and he helps this man in this last stand because they're losing the war, the battle, by honoring him, by helping him commit a very cultured harikari, a suicide. That showing the other last stand. And it's just a myriad of last stands in this movie. This is like the epitome, I think, of what Steve was trying to get at.
I think you're right. That's a very good point, and it's a great movie for exactly what Steve has intended. What do you think, Steve?
I think it's one of the top movies when it comes to this. Not only is it a good movie, well written, well acted, not only does it show you a culture that it brings a culture to life like you're reading it straight out of history in its presentation. And I feel like it exemplifies what we were going for when talking about this.
I appreciate that.
Agreed. Yeah.
And I have one last film real quickly, and I won't belabor it very much. Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
I actually thought about that one too.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
I mean, here's a guy in high school. Here's a guy in high school. He's trying to figure it all out, and he's got it. He's thinking he has it made, but just like everybody in high school, it's our last hurrah. So what do you do with your last hurrah? You do things that make it crazy. You do things that make it fun and exciting.
Go insane.
You have such a rapport with not just the students, but with the world around you and your community, that it just makes it even better. This is a wonderful Last Stand film, and Ferris Bueller's Day Off. It really is.
Nicely
Right,
played.
yeah.
Nicely played.
It really is.
I do have one
can I
honorable
mention
mention.
a couple of? Can I mention a couple
just-
before you do that, Larry?
I'm not going to talk about it. I just want to mention this one film, and then you can. And it's a film based on a play called Orphans, 1987, starring Albert Finney.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Go for it, Karen.
Okay. I just want to mention a couple of movies too that I guess I should have mentioned when I actually had the floor. Detective Story, 1951 movie with Kirk Douglas, William Bendix, Eleanor Parker, and a host of other just fabulous character actors. This is to me, a typical Last Stand movie. It's at the tail end of the film noir period, but it's really well written. William Wyler wrote it, brilliantly directed, and Kirk Douglas plays a hard-boiled detective who prides himself on structure, on knowing right from wrong, and everything in his world is black and white. You're either a good guy or you're a bad guy. And he has no tolerance for bad guys. And and if you're good, well, you're only doing what you're supposed to do, and that's it. And then he loves his wife, and he loves his job. He loves putting the bad guys in jail, and he loves protecting the good people of New York City from all the bad people out there. And then his wife comes along, who has the secret in her past that makes her one of these, if not bad people, certainly a much more gray character. And he worshiped her because she was pure and unsullied and good and everything that he was fighting for. And then as it turns out, maybe her heels are a little round. And he can't handle that. So then he starts treating her like the bully and the megalomaniac that he really is. And she leaves him. She says, I'm leaving him. And he can't handle that. He really can't. And so he basically engineers a situation. He engineers a Last Stand, but he's at war with himself. That's the really interesting thing. And in a film noir where there very many, there's so much black and white, this film has so many shades of gray. It's definitely worth a watch. And then the last film that I want to mention is The Godfather from 1972. Mario Puzo, he wrote the book, but that brilliant movie, which won the Academy Award, many Academy Awards in 1972, and rightfully so, this had another classic Last Stand, not too dissimilar from Detective Story, because you have Michael Corleone at war with himself. That's who The Last Stand was with. Had nothing to do with the mafia, or, you know, it had to do with what kind of person are you going to be, because you've been set up for success, dude. You've had every single privilege. You've had every single privilege and honor and entitlement that could possibly come to anyone from an immigrant, first generation immigrant family. What are you going to do? Are you going to do the right thing, quote unquote, which means become a decent be a decent person, do the right, be honorable and honest, run for office, protect the great people of the state of New York? Or are you going to be a hoodlum? And are you going to run the mobs? And there's this classic scene at the end of the movie where it's his wife, and she's in the, I guess does she knock on the door? She's standing there at the door, and he shuts the door in her face. And that is that stand. And he's made his decision. He is going with his family heritage, not with his family entitlement, which was to be a good person, but the family heritage, because there's so much more reward and fun in being a mafioso than there will ever be in being a stand right citizen, which is boring as hell. And he's like, screw that. I'm doing the mob thing.
That's a great choice, because his character is set up, as you said, to be a successful American. Mm-hmm. And yet at the same time, his father's always teaching him family first.
Right.
So inside him, he has this struggle, this major struggle, and one side has to win. Otherwise, they both fail.
Right.
You know, both family and him fail. He could have gone either way.
Yep.
But he chose, family and the family business. I think that's a great point. Karen, that's a fantastic point. This is a great movie about a personal struggle leading up to that final, that I don't want to say final, but that major stand that where he makes that decision and then shuts that door. I think that's great.
I love that scene. It's like my favorite scene of the whole movie.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you've heard it from 2 different episodes of A Real Point of View on Last Stand. Some of the best movies that any of us have ever seen, with wonderful conflict, with wonderful, just the true essence of, trying to fight for the right thing. And whether we do the right thing or not is determined in these Last Stands. So thanks again for watching us here on A Real Point of View. I'm Greg, that's Larry, that's Karen, and that's Steve. We all want to say thanks for watching us here on A Real Point of View. Check out our YouTube channel, also under A Real Point of View, and also our archives and Blog Talk Radio. Have a wonderful night, and we'll see you next time here on A Real Point of View. Good night, everybody.
Good night.